And the world responded to me in a completely different way than I'd ever seen it. You have this thought, it happened right away. Like, to the point of it being uncanny. I was like, okay, what's happening here? Like, this is insane. Like, and after 3 months of it, you're like, I need to pay more attention to this. Like, I'm having a thought and I'm meeting that person the next day.
Hey everyone, quick heads up before we jump in. This week, we're doing something a little different. Instead of our usual format, I had the chance to step into the guest seat on the Kid Carson show. Kid Carson invited me for a wide-ranging conversation, and we got into stories, perspectives, and ideas that don't usually come up here. So today, you're hearing that conversation. Me and Kid Carson. Hope you enjoy it.
Dillon,
Good to see you.
good to see you, dude. I guess this is our second time meeting in person. The first time was last week in Banff.
We produce an event in Banff every year. I think it's been 9 years. It's called the Banff Craft Beer Festival. It started with beer focus, but now there's everything: ready to drinks, non-alcs, food, music, DJs, the whole thing.
And what Dillon told me actually off camera was that it's all a scam so he can meet people to bring them into purifying their souls and finding synchronicity in their life.
There we go. Yeah, it's the top of the funnel. It's like, we just throw events, and then people are curious about, how do you do this? You run this event? This is your business? And it's like, yes. Do you want to learn more? And then we kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so you're really doing like the two opposites.
Yeah.
Parties, and then this like spiritual work. Like, how would you describe the spiritual side of it in a nutshell before we dive in?
I think just finding alignment in life and being authentic to who you know you are is the easiest way to talk about it. Spirituality has a lot of, what's the word? People have a lot of conceptions of what that is, right? They tie it to religion. They tie, religion to all the horrors that religion has happened in the world, and in spirituality, or just becoming your truest version of yourself. I know those are overused, and I roll my eyes when I hear that as well. But there is a true pursuit in discovering that for yourself. It's kind of like the gym, in the sense of, if you go to the gym and someone tells you, you're going to get the benefit from it, but you've never done that, it's just words. Versus if you go and you start eating healthier and you start to change your own energy and change yourself, you'll feel different. And I think with, we'll use a blanket term, spirituality, there is that direct experience that's needed in order for it to be comprehended. A lot of the times people go, okay, well, what is this? And I'm curious about it, but they look at other people who might be kind of in that world and they go, I'm not that person. I'm not going to give up my idea of making a lot of money or, pursuing the life I want, because it seems like they're in two opposite camps. And what I found is they're actually not. They're kind of the same thing. And you make more money when you're more authentic. You become more potent. People can feel your energy, and you just get more opportunities.
What are you into?
What
is your view on what reality is and what a spiritual journey looks like?
Okay, good start.
Okay.
My perception of it, and I'll only ever be able to talk from my personal experience, but we are not separate from the world. We're integrated to intense degree that we can't even really comprehend that. Like this idea that I'm here and you're there and the world's outside of us doesn't seem to be the case. All the sciences, every major religion, all the philosophies, they speak to this idea that we're all connected. And I know that's overused and people kind of go, it just is words when they hear that. But when you begin to feel that and you begin to have experiences in your life where, maybe I am more connected to the world than I think. Maybe what I think can come into the reality in a way. Creators understand this. If you build a business, you have a thought, you build the business, and then you can live within the business that you've built. If you are a painter, you'll have a thought, you'll create a painting, and now there's a painting in the reality. You can do this at every kind of sort of level, from creating art, creating poetry, creating a clay bowl, to designing your own reality, designing a business that provides you the income so you can live life on your own terms. You have freedom, and essentially what it is you're becoming sovereign. You're designing a life where you get to make the shots. And I think everyone wants that. Everyone wants to move in the direction of becoming more sovereign, having more control over their lives, not feeling like they're getting thrown around in the world. And
so what would the difference be between, someone might argue, well, I'll just go to business school. I'll learn how to make a big, a business that I can live off of. And what's the difference between that and someone who is discovering more synchronicities and their connection to the world?
Right. I think, again, you could have two people and they look the exact same. One went to business school, they built $1 million business, but they feel like they always wanted to be a painter. So their back end thoughts, they're like, oh, I wish I was painting, but I have this business I have to like participate in now because I built it. Versus someone who might want to be a painter, they pursue that and then they build a business around becoming a painter. The major difference is, in my opinion, is that when you build something that's out of alignment, you'll always have to force yourself to work on it. Versus if you build something that's within alignment, there's no needed energy to do that thing because you want to be doing it anyway. And that slight variation of, do you need to spend energy to focus on the thing that you want to do? Or is that what you're wanting to do if you had all the free time in the world? So the question I ask is, if you had $100 million in the bank, you don't have to worry about finances, you don't have to worry about really anything, what would you spend your time doing? And it's a good thought experiment for people. So it's like, oh, I have $100 million in the bank. Nothing needs to be managed by me. What would I want to spend my time doing in life? And a lot of people are like, oh, I'd go to the beach, I'd drink mojitos or margaritas and just relax. And you'd do that for like 6 months, maybe less. And then you'd start going.
Give it a good year.
A year, even 2 years. Let's even just say 5. Like, you're really just hanging out at that point.
Yeah.
But then you go, there has to be more. The question of meaning, the question of purpose will inevitably come knocking. It just does for the human condition. If you don't have anything to do, your mind is going to go, well, what's the point? What is this thing that I'm in? If I have nothing to do, I don't have to worry about money anymore. You have all the resources. Is this it? And the mind will kind of ask you that question. And then I think that's where the pursuit for a lot of people starts is, well, what's the meaning of this? What is the purpose of this? And then that kind of blossoms into all the different avenues you can go down.
Right. So you're helping people with a blueprint of how to do this, almost like if you had a plan to go to the gym.
Yeah.
A lot of us discover that maybe we're spiritual. And we're had some experiences where we feel like we're dialed in.
Yeah.
We don't really know what the next step is.
Right.
It's sort of like, okay, we're noticing things, but maybe we're not actively moving up the ladder, for lack of a better term.
You're in the gym,
right,
which is good, but there's no program, there's no system to it. Hey, being in the gym is better than not being in the gym. That's why I love the metaphor. Building on your energy, putting focus into your body and your mind is great. But when you have a system and there's lots of old systems, like meditation is the oldest. There's lots of Tantra. There's lots of ancient systems that help people understand themselves. But with the modern world, a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at things that don't seem to produce real world results. And when I say real world results, I mean, do I have to go live in an ashram for 6 months, or do I have to completely leave my life in the modern world to get access to these higher planes of consciousness? And that for me it's like, you don't have to do that. Like, if that is a calling, awesome, go do it. But you can integrate various aspects of yourself into a cohesive individual, and when you do that, then you begin to see the world respond back to you because you're coherent. You're putting your blueprint onto the world, then having the world put its blueprint onto you. And as soon as you kind of become a creator in that way, and you can start small, right? Like organizing your house so it's how you want it, right? And just making sure stuff in the sink and like just tending to it as if you're sincere about it, I think is a good way to put about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where did it start for you? I mean, and now you're coaching people on how to do this.
Yeah.
You're walking them through it. Because a lot of people have like a bit of an awakening after like a bad time. Maybe they're like in the dirt, in the mud. And that gives, usually not a super like happy-go-lucky person just discovers, oh, I want to become spiritual and become the best version of myself.
Right.
It's usually the bad times that push us to make a change.
Definitely.
So if it's not too personal, I'd love to know what the moment was for you.
And I'll just double click on that. The reason most people turn to spirituality for a blanket term is because they're not getting the results they want in life. So they're going, okay, I've been trying this, it's not working, or something falls apart and they have to redesign themselves.
Right.
For me, there's two. One was when I was 9 and one was when I was 19.
9?
9, yeah.
Okay. I have a son who's 8, so this will be interesting for me to hear this.
And I won't like focus too much on this, but when I was 9, I had a close family member pass away. And in having that happen, it wasn't like a grandparent or anything. So it was kind of this understanding that, okay, wait, life is very like not stable. Like, you know, you can just be taken from this world and then ask yourself, well, then what's the point of, like, you know, this and it was an older brother, just to kind of give you context.
Oh, really, man? Shit.
But it's formed my life, right? So the question of, okay, well, what happens after you die? That question became a pursuit for me to discover what happens, because like, you talk about the religions and everything. Oh, you go to a better place. Oh, there's the afterlife. Oh, you know, there's heaven, there's hell, and you're just like, okay, does any of this make any sense? And then you go to the priest house, and I was raised a Catholic, and you start trying to discover, does anyone really know what they're talking about here? Because they just give you blanket statements. There wasn't any really tangible, hard evidence. So that was kind of my first awakening, was pursuing the question, what happens after you die? As a young kid, but old enough to be like contemplating those kind of bigger things. Then from about 9 to 19, I'm, you know, pursuing that question on my own. I'm reading books on it. I'm diving into world religions, philosophies. I'm like, hey, someone else has to have had this question before me. I'm not the first person.
Well, by the way, I'm curious to know, like, when you're 9,
Yeah.
what's the first move? What's the first book you pick up? At what age?
So for me, it was, initially into world religions, because it was like, oh, the people who have the answers to the afterlife would be the church.
Yeah.
But then I realized, like, they have no idea, like, at that point in time, they're either not telling me or they don't really know either. And it became like, okay, I don't think they really know. Like, I think they understand the concepts of it, but they're not having direct experiences with what I would consider the divine consciousness. Like, we weren't even using that term, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was more of like self-experimenting. I was really into ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. They have all these kind of like elements in it, and so I started just learning about culture, so all the ancient cultures. And when you learn about them enough, you start to see similarities across all of them.
Yeah.
That you're like, that doesn't make sense. How is that the same as that? And Zeus here is this here, and Jupiter is that. And like, you start making all these connections, and you go,
Like same stories, but different character names.
Exactly. And once you see that, once you begin to see the pattern, you can't unsee it, right? So it's like, oh, you start seeing the pattern. All the pantheon of the Greek gods are very similar to the Roman gods, and those are similar to ancient Egyptian gods. And there's variations, and I don't want to oversimplify it, because it's, you know, it's not able to be oversimplified.
Yeah.
But if you do that exploration enough on your own, you begin to see it emerge. And then for me, it was just between 9 and 19, I was doing that, and I was going, okay, so these are, I don't know, do you remember, I forget what the book's called, Eyewitness? I don't know if you remember those books. They were like,
I don't know.
it was like
a kid's
eyewitness
book?
kids books, but also like information books.
Okay.
So like Eyewitness Egypt, Eyewitness Greece, or whatever. So that was kind of my start when you're 10, right?
Okay.
You're getting into it like that. And then you get older, you know, you go to high school and you begin to travel, and you start realizing, oh, the world I live in Canada, Calgary, I'm born and raised in Calgary, is not the world at large. Right? Like, it's like there's way more happening than what is happening in my little sphere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so from, like I said, 9 to 19, it was that exploration. World cultures, world religion, philosophies, Eastern philosophies, Western philosophies, understanding the differences. Not going so comprehensive in any of them that I became like a Buddhist, or I became, you know, like a devout Christian or anything, but understood it enough that I could begin to piece out and see the similarities between them. And I feel like that's where a lot of people stop. They get associated with a group, and it feels good to be a part of a group, and then this is my identity. I'll stay a part of this group, versus learning everything from the group and then moving forward and not letting the group define you. It's kind of a big thing for it. But that kind of happened, so that gave me the whole background, and you're still like, oh, I haven't had any direct experiences, so I didn't really, it was all intellectualized to that point. Like, I know the knowledge, or I have like the feeling that there's something going on. I have this question, what happens after you die? Egypt, there's the Book of the Dead, there's the mummies, like there's all this sorts of stuff that they believed in an afterlife, and there's a lot of stuff we could unpack there, but essentially where it really took off was when I turned 19, and I did was it 3 or 4 month backpacking trip across Europe. And it was the first time, like, I had traveled in Mexico and Costa Rica and stuff with the family before, but this was the first time individual solo travel with a couple buddies.
Yeah.
And the world responded to me in a completely different way than I'd ever seen it. Like, it would be like, you have this thought, it happened right away. Like, to the point of it being uncanny. I was like, okay, what's happening here? Like, this is insane. Like, and after 3 months of it, you're like, I need to pay more attention to this. Like, I'm having a thought and I'm meeting that person the next day. Or like, you know, we have to miss this train because we won't catch the flight, and we will miss the train. Like, it was just random stuff, and, you know, I couldn't really get into all the details, but
I had a similar experience, actually.
Okay, cool, yeah.
And it was in Eastern Europe for a month.
Amazing.
And it was just like that. You're just on fire, right?
Yeah. And at the end of that, I was like, okay, so this is how I want to live my life. Like, this is the state I want to be in, where I know I'm connected to the world around me. Like, I don't need any... Everyone else in the world could say, that's not the case. I'd be like, well, that's been my experience. So, like, I don't know what you want me to do about that.
And you feel like Neo in the Matrix, right?
That's a good way to think about it. And so all good stories, The Matrix, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, like, it doesn't pick any good story, has this arc of the hero's journey. I'm sure you've heard of it. Yeah. This person who comes into awareness of themselves, they get faced with challenges, they have to overcome the challenges, and then they, you know, succeed in the end. And when you understand that the world is full of archetypes and certain energies are playing out through people, yourself, you start to go, okay, like, what's the best archetype that I can kind of, like, I don't want to just be that. I want to be all of those, or the best versions of all of those things. And I want to kind of bring it into myself and make a combination and make it my own thing. And so the trip to Europe really kind of, like, substantiated that, outside of, like, oh, I'm curious about world religion and philosophies. But then it was like a direct experience. And I was like, oh, okay, like, you can't explain synchronicity to someone. Like, they might, oh, hey, you see the numbers, and like, yeah, it's connecting. And they're like, cool. Yeah. But then when it starts to happen to you, to a point where it becomes undeniable, to the point that the potency of the synchronicity becomes to a point where, like, you begin to tear up emotionally because you realize, like, wow, I am connected to everything else. Like, this is insane. You just begin to live your life differently.
Yeah. So you come back from this trip, you've experienced it, it's total synchronicity for 3 months straight. You're like, I want to start living my life like this. And then what's the first, you come home, and it's a different energy here, right? Yeah. Like, did you notice that? Like, do you think it helped that you were abroad?
Of course.
Sitting in a different energy for you to tap into it?
Well, I think in general, home has a state of security to it, and people think of home as like, oh, I can relax a little. But when you're traveling, you can feel home within yourself, but you're not necessarily home in your geographical environment. And so I think travel in general provides an opportunity for people to tap into the energy that's ever present, because you have to be more present when you're traveling than you are at home. At home, you might do a lot of things on autopilot. That's the way I go to work. I get my coffee in the morning. I come home. I take my dog out. Like, everything can be kind of on autopilot if you've done it enough. Whereas when you go travel, you're forced to be in the present moment because you're in a new environment. You have to, like, make plans or make changes in real time, and you don't have that kind of autopilot mode that's just kind of running normally with people.
Especially if you don't speak the language.
Exactly. The culture shock can be huge. Like, there just have to be way more at the front of your consciousness than you do at home. And so traveling is good for that. Like, it gets you out of a mold of a certain way of thinking, and it can provide an opportunity to perceive these kind of, to perceive the world in this way. But it's not necessarily a guarantee. A lot of people will bring their baggage that they have at home, bring it traveling with them, and they'll still ruminate on the same things. They're not going to have the same sort of experiences, right?
Yeah.
So ideally what you want to do is remove yourself from the environment, be conscious and aware of the intention of you're going into a new space. The energy that you're going to bring into that space is going to interact with you, like, in real time, and then kind of start from there. So I come home and I'm like, okay. It's funny, I had a mentor send me an email when I was 19, and I think it was just so potent. But he's like, the hardest thing about traveling is when you come home, the world that you left will have barely moved an inch, and you will have transformed 100 times. And, like, it just, like, it hit me, because I came home and I had all these stories, and I was a totally different person, and I had all these synchronicities, and I was just like, I just need to talk about this. Like, this can't be just me and everyone else in the environment that they barely moved. It felt like there was no transformation at all. And you're like, wow, crazy. Like, it's almost like time stood still here, and I went and I, like, had these, like, life-changing moments, like countless numbers of them. And I'm trying to come back and fit who I used to be in this environment, and it's just not working.
Yeah. How did you deal with that?
So this is kind of how what I've realized now is what I'm trying to bring to the world or offer is I didn't really know how to deal with it, essentially, right? I was like, okay, I've had these transformations. I know this is real for me. The world that I'm in is not responding to that. Or when I try to talk about it, they just roll their eyes and they're like, oh yeah, the crazy person or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so what I did was like, okay, I'll keep this world. I'll develop a life. I'll keep building businesses and, it'll kind of be in this way. But my personal life, I will go deep into this. I won't necessarily talk to people about it unless I find people that are interested. Then I'll open up. And that's how kind of I did. I had segmented for a while. I was one person that did this, and then I was one person that did this.
Yeah. And did you have some friends that were also into that spiritual stuff too, or you kind of on a solo mission?
I did have a couple friends, the two buddies I went traveling with, and that helps. It really helps to have people that you can kind of like bounce ideas off of. But in general, it's you, right? It's N of one. You're the only one that understands your experiences. It helps when people around you will be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So you're like, okay, it's not just me. Yeah. It kind of gives you that support system. But yeah, in general, so it was like I had a couple buddies, and then I had my work environment, let's say. And if people met me through work, they didn't really understand who I was on the personal side. And if they met me on the personal side, they were always shocked to hear what I did for work. It was just kind of like, they're like, those are two like opposite.
They're like, you throw parties?
Yeah,
what?
Exactly.
Really?
They're like, how does this work? Like, oh, I met you at like a South American like retreat. And now you're telling me that you throw like big events? Like, it doesn't like make sense, right? And for me, I was always like, yeah, how do I like tie these things together? And it took a few years for me to finally understand how this was all meant to be. But really, it was just like, hey, I knew this was truth, and I knew that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the business partners I have now are awesome. We've developed a really cool business together, and we're super proud of it. And we get to throw parties for a living, and it's amazing. And we incepted that, years ago, over 10 years ago. I've been working with these guys, and it was an example of we thought about it. Like, they had ran festivals before, they'd run smaller events, but we sat down at the table one time and we're like, hey, we're going to call it this will be the logo, this is what we're going to develop, and then over time you build that. So it just was more evidence for me that you can think of something, work hard at it, and then eventually you can live in the reality that created for you. Mm-hmm. When I started that, I didn't have the understanding that I have now on how to do that at like a true energetic resonance level. There wasn't like the intention of like, oh, we're going to connect people to their soul and like their authentic self, like none of that, right? And so now I'm like, okay, knowing that we did that as a group over 10 years, if I have another thought or I have another intention about the bigger vision that's aligned with separate self, unified self, like all these other aspects are included in it, like how big of a vision do you want to kind of dream, mm-hmm. right? And people that are successful always say, make it bigger, make the dream bigger, because if you really pursue it and if you really put effort into it, it will form for you, right? And like, you talk to any big business person, they're like, I wish I would have dreamed bigger. I wish I would have had a bigger vision for it.
Because you're probably going to feel like you're spending the same amount of energy anyways.
You are, truly.
So you might as well, you're going to spend the same amount of hours, mm-hmm. make it bigger, yeah.
Dream big.
I'd love to hear some practical tips on how you do this. Okay. And I know probably this is some of your coaching that you teach people, but are there some things you do practically in your life? You've come back, you've built this business, you're getting synchronicities. How do you keep yourself like in the flow?
In high frequency?
Yeah.
Or
however you want to answer that question. Yeah. I'm not even sure what the right question is. What do I know?
How do you stay in the pocket?
How do you stay in the pocket?
How do you stay in the pocket?
I like it. Okay.
Were you an athlete growing up? Did you play sports?
High school a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So
I was the shortest guy on my basketball team.
You're slam dunking.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things I think in general is when you don't feel good, say you're sick, you have the flu, and someone asks you to do something, you're like, oh my God, like I can't, like I feel sick, I'm daunting. Versus, if you come off a holiday and you got a lot of energy and someone's like, hey, can you help me move? Most of them are like, yeah, absolutely. Like you're so engaged in it. So for me, what I started to realize was when I had low energy, and like this is very kind of, it's self-evident, but when you think about it, it's like when you have low energy, you don't have the ability to do a lot of things, right? You're just trying to get healthy. There's a quote, it's like, take the health away from anyone, and that health is the number one thing they want to worry about,
Right.
right? Like, it's like wealth means nothing if you're unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? And so understanding health as high energy or low energy. So the things that bring high energy into your life, you just want to do more of those. So it's like, these are standard. People know: sleep well, drink, hydrate properly with water, eat nourishing food, don't be stressed, watch your intake for media, try not to, ingest garbage, that type of thing. And we all know this, right? And it's like, oh, but why? What's the reason of wanting to do all these things? So for me, it was understanding the higher energy I hold within myself, the bigger capacity I have to create the dream I want to live in. It just became like synonymous. And as I move, and then I would make choices, and I would go from a high energy state to a low energy state, and I'd be like, man, things are clunky now. They're not running as frictionless as they.
What kind of choices were you making? What was happening behind the curtain?
Behind the curtain, it would just be like, the things that you shouldn't be doing. Drinking too much, right? Like that's a classic one. And like, I'll still enjoy the odd beverage now and then, but like, I know where where my limit is, right? Or eating too much greasy food, right? Or like, and you don't need to go full vegan or vegetarian. Like, that's also, in my experience, it didn't work for me. I felt like too ungrounded when I would cut out all that stuff. So I was like, hey, there has to be a happy middle where like I'm not controlled by the things I want to do, but I use them as tools to help me kind of like either relax or tap into this state of mind.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things you can do is just start eliminating the things that we all have, like whether it's like video gaming or alcohol, or we all have these things we do to kind of take the edge off, and when you're doing it too much. Right?
Yeah.
I think we all have the internal compass or the consciousness that's like, I'm doing that too much. It's funny because like with the events we host are beverage, food, and music focused. So a lot of it is involved in the alcohol scene. And again, I have no problem with that. It's been part of my journey to understand, but everything in balance, right? Like extremes are normally not great in any way, shape, or form. Too hot is too hot. Too cold is too cold. That middle just right is where you want to be. So for me, understanding the self-experimenting of what that is, what's too much, what's not enough, when kind of being able to ride the bicycle balanced is a good way to think of it. And then for me, it was just more of like when you start to see the things that you do that raise your energy up, I just want to do more of those things. More green bars on my investment portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Like more of that, less of the red, and then in general, just make sure you're kind of progressing upwards to the right, and you're in a good state.
Do you have any things that you do that might surprise people? Maybe that might even seem weird to some people, like as part of your daily
I
routine?
love to float. Sensory deprivation for me is like a super easy way to tap into your subconscious. I used to do it like religiously once a week for about 6 months, or not quite a year, but it was one of those rituals. It was every Sunday. I had my thing, went floated. And what I found it beneficial for is coming back to the present moment. Right, and you can do this in whatever way. If it's a walk on the seawall, if it's a meditation, if it's a music, like listening to your favorite music, but try to find the present moment as often as you can.
And for someone who's never heard the term float before, paint the picture for people.
Yeah. So there's one that I go to it's called Halsa. It's in on West 4th.
Yes,
phenomenal.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you haven't been there, highly
it's
recommend
incredible.
it.
Yeah.
What it is, it's sensory deprivation in super saturated water that has Epsom salts in it. So when you go and you lay, you're able to float without any effort. And what it does is it eliminates visual cues, audio cues. It eliminates all the intakes you would normally have through your 5 senses. So your consciousness is just isolated in yourself. And when you isolate all the intakes, you're left with just awareness. And when you're left with just awareness, things will start to bubble up to the surface. This is like the standard of meditation. It's meditation on
speed, crack.
I don't know steroids.
Let's go steroids. Yeah, smack.
Crack. It's like all right. Meditation on steroids is a float tank.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like I've taken people floating, and like they've cried in it their first time, or they don't like it. They get salt in their eye. They have an open cut, and it just totally wrecks their experience.
Yeah, you got to give it 3 chances.
At least 3. And once you do it, and once you understand, you'll have one moment where you'll find immense peace. Stillness is the easiest way to say it. You'll just find absolute stillness, and it might even be for a second, but that absolute stillness will be enough to plant the seed that, that's something I might be able to access in myself more consistently.
Yeah. I love Halsa, and you afterwards you sit in the little lounge area that they have, and it's so quiet and so peaceful. And it's like resets your brain.
It's amazing.
And then you go outside and you hear like the birds chirping that you didn't hear the birds chirping on the way in.
Yeah.
And suddenly now everything's new. Because when's the last time your all senses were cut off from input? Like it's a rare thing to have happen. So that's cool. You're into that.
Love floating.
Yeah.
It's actually in Calgary before I moved out here. We had tried right before COVID. We had tried to build a float center that had like a routine to it. So you get a massage first. One of the things with floating too is if you come into the float tank in a stressful environment, you're also not going to get the best benefit. So do a 30 minutes of stretching before, or what I used to do is I used to go for like an hour massage, have the massage really level me out, really like relax me, and then walk across the street into the float tank.
Nice.
So it was like a 2.5 hour session. But then you enter the float tank and you're already relaxed. And at that point now, finding that stillness is like, it just happens.
Yeah. What else are you doing in your own personal routine?
Personal routine, I've been, I love the gym. Like it just, I love working the body. So whatever that is, whether it's the gym or running or biking, I find you get into a state of mind that's quite meditative. So these are like just foundational things. Everyone hears about this, but it's like providing the structure to why those things are important. Yeah, you get healthy, but this is like the cherry on the top. The idea that you can curate more synchronistic moments for you and on an individual basis, the more potent you are energetically. So it's like, keep climbing that energetic ladder and the world responds to your abundance of energy.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about the coaching?
For me, so come back from, just to kind of like recap, come back from the trip, 19, and I go, okay, I got to find out more about this world. And it was like way down the side, like, oh, you can go live in an ashram. And like, so I went to Tibet and I went to Bhutan and Nepal, and I was like, maybe that's the route. And I went there for 6 months and I would explore temples and stuff. And I was like, I love this, but this is not what I'm supposed to do. But it gave me a good understanding on where those philosophies come from, right? For me, with the coaching and kind of what I'm trying to bring to the world in a unique way is understanding that this will be a personal journey for everyone who engages in it, just like a fitness journey is going to be their fitness journey. But there's been people who have come into fitness before you and have, will be in there longer, and they're professionals, and if you train with them over 6 months, you're going to get results quicker than if you just kind of go into the gym and haphazardly throw things together. And because I enjoy the gym and I enjoy the systematic process of like having a routine and having a training program, right? You can download training programs online. Push, pull legs, progressive overload. These are the best exercises, time under tension. There's all these different things about how you can optimize your training. And so I've just used that model to bring it into consciousness. How do you optimize your consciousness? Using a similar progressive overload system, a training manual, and it's always about finding the present moment. So
training manual. This is genius.
Yeah. I just need that. For me, I needed something that kept me on track while also still being able and have the freedom to explore it on my own.
Yeah. Because that's what everyone says. They're like, there's no, when you're born, there's no training manual to this, but now there is.
Well, let's hope, right? And I think the thing with that is a lot of times people will go looking for it at the wrong space. Like religion is when you think about, like the bigger questions on life. What's the meaning of life? Is there a God? Like all these type of things that are so kind of, they seem so out there, but yet each person is inherently connected to those questions. Like, we're human beings. We want to understand those things. And understanding it intellectually is one thing. Feeling it is something different, right? Like, when you vibe with someone, you're like, I vibe with that person. Like, we're on the same frequency. I like that person, but we just don't connect as well as me and this other person, right?
Yeah.
Like, everyone's had those experiences. So it's more, from my understanding, it's how do you develop and design a life that gives you the opportunity to bring more of those experiences where you're on the same frequency, and then turn up the volume on that and be creative, right? It's like creativity and there's a study that was released. Authenticity is the highest energy output, higher than love. Have you seen this thing?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, higher than love. That was fascinating.
Which is amazing, right? Yeah. And so it's like when you are authentic and you're able to vibrate in a high frequency, if you think of yourself as like a biochemical electrical system, you have more power on affecting the external reality. hence the high energy, low energy states.
Right.
So doing that and knowing that like you can't just turn it up all the way because you'll almost like fry out your nervous system. And anyone who's had experienced burnout before, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you can't just be all yang energy, all creative energy. You need that. Yang, like yin yang.
I always say yang.
It might be yang. I've heard yang. I've heard
I'm
yang.
I'm learning a new word here.
Tomato.
Okay. It's a tomato situation.
Yeah.
Yin and yang. You say
yin and yang.
You've done more traveling than me. I trust you.
It might be yang. We'll say it's yang.
Okay.
The black and white yin yang that you see in when you're a kid, right?
You got to have the balance.
You have to, and it's one of those things where if you don't, it will bring the balance to you, right? Like if you work too hard, you'll get sick. I'm sure you've had experiences like that where your body is just like,
go.
No, time for you to take a seat.
Yeah.
Or you aren't doing enough and there's that inner voice going, man, like get going. Like you got to get moving on something. So your body knows, your body, mind, soul knows where that balance is. And we're the ones that zigzag between it. Too much, too little, too much, too little. High energy, low energy, high energy, low energy, to figure out, okay, this is the balance that I like to kind of live at. And when I'm here, I'm not stressed, but I also know I'm still moving forward. I have a good routine. I don't have to think about it. I'm enjoying it. And you just like, the flow state's an easy way to describe it. But when you're working hard and your mind, body, and emotions are aligned in what it is that you're doing, you just get more bang for your buck.
Right. Because when you get the balance going, you excel.
Yeah. Essentially, It'd be like their adventure will be their own, but I provide a little bit of a framework and a overarching view of why you want to do that. Not just, sleep well because it's good for sleep. Like, we all know those things. We've been told for years, eat healthy, work out. Like, we get that. But when you take those smaller elements and you bring them inside a more cohesive kind of understanding, I want to do this because I want more synchronicity in my life. I want more synchronicity in my life so I don't have so much decision fatigue of deciding where I want to go and what I want to do, because it comes through clear. Your intuition and synchronicity and intuition are very tied in, but it becomes just undeniably potent. You know what you're supposed to do. So there's no like ruminate, am I doing the right thing? Am I living the right path? Am I in alignment? It's like, no, you just know. And so the more that you know, the more decisive you are in decision making, the quicker you get from A to B. And then you get the next thing, right? It's like this endless journey. It's never like, you don't ever come to a full stop. It's like, enlightenment isn't a state. It can be a state of your mind and your body and your soul. But once you're there for a long enough time, you'll go, okay, what's the next thing? What's the adventure? And you'll come back down into the physical world, right? Yeah. So it's like, it's more of, for me, it's designing and developing my life that allows me to tap into moments of enlightenment, but then still come back to the day-to-day and love the world I've created for myself and be excited for the next version of that.
Yeah. And you don't have to walk around in a robe.
And you don't have to cut out all the stuff that makes life awesome. Like, I love staying up late with my friends and dancing until the sun rises. Like, I love hosting parties. And one of the things I think about the party scene, we think of nightlife as the clubs, and we think of nightlife as overconsumption. Whereas festivals and gatherings of people have been like a part of culture for as long as we can remember. People have gathered food, drink, dancing, music for like since the start of time, right? And so this idea that gatherings are more than just their play, but they're also like places where humans can connect and develop in a unified field, right? So if we go to a festival and there's a certain type of music playing and we're all dancing to that music and there's a certain rhythm and we all can kind of sync up coherently, you can have an experience of unity. Yeah, like, this is what people will talk about music festivals, why they love it so much is they feel like they're part of a family or they're part of a group of people, right? And so you can do these things. A sports team, if you ever played sports teams and you know when your team's firing together. That guy with the puck, you don't even have to call. You know he's going to be there because you've practiced that breakout 100 times, right?
Yeah.
And you feel bigger than yourself, right? It's this feeling of, that you're your own individual. You're connected to the whole at a level that's kind of the separate mind or the analytical mind almost can't comprehend it.
Right.
Because it thinks it's separate from everything.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
What next for me? So
'Cause there's all these different levels.
Yeah.
What belt are you now? Are you a black belt yet? Or
I
what?
don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no belt. Yeah. What's the next belt? No belt.
No
No
belt,
belt.
that's
belt. For me, the next thing is continuing to design events in the real world that people can be invited into, that have food, beverage, music components, kind of the standard festival environments. And then using those to meet people who are interested in this kind of next trajectory, the next stage. And there you go. I've heard about this, and I think there's something to do with spirituality, or maybe there's a God, but I'm not really sure. And then I'm just going to merge those two worlds and go, okay, if you have a intuition that might be the case, and you're willing to have a couple conversations about it, I'll kind of map out a program that if you do that, just like training, if you go to the gym and you train, you follow the program, you follow the diet, and you do all the things that you're told to do, you will get the outcome. And that's kind of what I'm trying to bring together. Is like, if you do the things in this template, in this blueprint, it's a guarantee. It's like the only thing that really is a guarantee is if you find balance, the world will respond to you finding balance.
And you'll start to notice the synchronicities. Yeah. Your whole consciousness will just...
And then it becomes self-evident. And then you can have conversations where it's just like, this has been my journey. It's unbelievable. Like, I was an accountant, and now I'm starting a painting class or whatever, right? Everyone has a cool transition. Or, I remain with my career because it's, provides me a good salary, and it provides me stability. But I'm also going to do that thing I've really been wanting to do for the last 15 years. And I think one of the mistakes a lot of people make is they understand, they come into this world and they go, okay, there is something more, but I've built myself as like, I'm sure the golden handcuff reference, right? I have a corporate job, and I have the house and the car and all these things, but I feel like I'm called to do something else. And I've had a lot of friends do this, and it doesn't normally work out the greatest, is they'll try to leap. They'll go, okay, so I'm not this person. I want to be this person. And they'll kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. They'll quit their jobs. They'll change everything overnight, thinking that it's going to happen like that.
Right.
And then inevitably they find they have no foundation. They're not who they used to be. Their world's falling apart, and then they revert back. And then to make that leap a second time is almost impossible.
It's the fear.
The fear. Because they already tried, thinking it was going to just take off immediately. And now they're back at what they wanted to move away from, but now they can't because they thought that they've quote unquote failed. So what I try to do is like, hey, that's amazing. This is your foundation. Let's progressive overload from here to here over 6 months. Maybe in a year, you actually have a whole new life designed over here that you can step away from this old life because you've already created the world on this side. Mm-hmm. But doing it in a slow process, like if you've never squatted, and you put 3 plates on the squat rack, and you're like, I'm going to go squat 305 or 315, and it will crush you. Versus if you've started with 10 pounds, 25 pounds, 50 pounds, and you've progressed up, and you get to 3 plates, and you've already had 225, 250, 275, you're going to be able to squat that weight. Like, it's not a big fear.
You've been saying the phrase progressive overload.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a cool phrase. And I was going to ask you how you came up with that, but that's probably from the gym.
It's from the gym. Yeah,
right.
It's the only way you can ensure that you're making progress, by progressive overloading yourself in ways that are attainable.
Progressive overloading
your consciousness.
Your consciousness.
How much can you hold?
Damn. And when you say hold, what do you mean by that?
There's infinite creativity all around, right? If you believe in source, that there's a creator, there's essentially energy is infinite. Energy can't be created or destroyed. We've all heard these terms, right? And so. And as an individual, you are a co-creator with who you are and who the world externally is to you. The external, say the eternal, let's use that, coming from source, is like it's full-on creative potential. It's just like, here it is. The city of Vancouver was a concept in someone's mind or a group of people's mind before it became reality. All these ideas, like this glass, the table, everything has started from a thought and progressed into form over, there's been a sequence of events that have allowed thought to turn into form. So when I say how much can you hold, it's how much creative potential can you bring through yourself from that other side of infinite creativity. And again, the nervous system burnout can happen if you don't do all these things that we're talking about, and you don't take it in sequence, and you put on too much weight on the squat rack, for the metaphor, it will crush you. But the more that you want, an artist in flow, for example, is not thinking about doing the painting. They've done all the practice to be a good painter. Now they're just creating their masterpiece, right? It's like, I think there's a quote. It's like, learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like a master or something. I think
that's
Leonardo
cool.
da Vinci like that. So it's like, know the thing that you're trying to do and understand the boundaries and kind of the components of it. But you want to get to a point where you're no longer thinking about the thing that you're doing and you're just doing it, right? The very best athletes are no longer thinking about, oh, I got to catch this and pass this puck. They've fully integrated all that, and now they're just playing the game.
Right.
And so when you say how much can you hold, how much creative potential can you as an individual bring into the real world and have people experience what you're creating?
And I know you've already said this, but to bring it back full circle, the key to, maybe you can finish the sentence for me, the key to being able to hold more creativity is
to be as aligned and authentic as possible, so it's no longer you being the one to do it. It's the consciousness that we would all associate ourselves with is the thing that's creating. And I think any great artist or performer will be like, they'll say the same thing. I don't know, that hit song that made 1 billion views or whatever, like, I didn't really write that. It came through me. Like, this is like a standard thing that everyone who's created anything that's truly great, they will very rarely own it. Like, it will come through them and you'll know it as like, oh, that person is the creator of that. But if you ask them, they're like, I don't know, that just came through and I had to channel that or something.
When I was a kid and I saw that someone say that for the first time, I thought, oh, they're just being so humble.
Yeah,
I thought it was so annoying. But then you see more and more people saying it, and you get it.
Yeah.
You get it.
And that's where, like, the separate self and the ego, people will call it, can kind of get in the way a little bit, because it will, like, want to try to, like, control it or own it. And we all need our identities. I can sit here and you can sit there and we can have those conversations. But in general, you want to, when you're creating, put that separate self on the back burner as much as possible and just let the creativity come through you. What are you curious about from this topic?
Well, I always like to ask people what your take is, like, on what all of this is. Like, super, super high level, just...
Like simulation, metaverse.
Yeah, like, what's your take on it? Because you've done a lot of work on this stuff.
Okay, good question.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's the big question. So, depending, and this is stuff where I think a lot of this doesn't make sense unless you have direct experience with it. So, like, one of the things that I try to encourage people to do is begin having direct experiences with, I don't know, if you don't like the word God, call it source, or, you know, the creative force, or whatever word you like to use to describe everything that is included in it. You know, try to develop an intimate relationship with that. And when so that you know that it's not like someone telling you, oh yeah, there's this source and, like, you know, there's this thing and there's it's like, okay, find out how you can interact with the world in that way. I think in the kind of, like, to make it succinct, there's one awareness, there's one consciousness, or you would call it, and then it has a bunch of different variations, which are us. So it can experience itself from different angles.
Yes.
Different geometry, different forms.
Yes.
And what we're all looking for is the feeling of being integrated and connected with that totality of consciousness, or the universal mind. You know, there's lots of words. People have used variations, but find what word that works for you, that you don't like shy away from, because religions and stuff have there's a lot of baggage there that people, when they hear these type of concepts, God, source, they're like, oh, that's a religious thing. I'm going to avoid that. There's been a lot of atrocities that have happened with religion.
A lot of dogma.
And like, exactly, right? So it's, know that it's like, if someone's telling you about the experience, you're still hearing it like secondary. Pursue the experiences on your own. Try to find direct experiences, and then I'm trying to put into words something that can't be put into words, right? So, like, I'll bastardize as much as I can to explain it, but when you get it and you have the experience, you just know. So whether it's a simulation theory or a metaverse, or there's multiple realities all happening at the same time, or, maybe we're in a supercomputer or whatever. Like, none of that I think really matters. And I think a lot of people get lost in, are we in simulation? Or it's like, sure, if you want to think that you're in a simulation, amazing. Now, what are you going to do about it? How do you take that knowledge and actually apply it into your life to make your simulation the one that you want to live in? Because if we're really in a simulation and you look around and your life isn't how you want it, well, who's programming the simulation? That's you, right? Or if it's a metaverse and you tune into the natural frequency of the vibration that you're at in the multiverse, then don't I want to be in the highest, most abundant, joyful vibration as I can find?
Yeah.
So
did you see a story? Like some Japanese scientists, they claim they've invented like a mirror that's connected to like a super quantum computer. And there's like, photons and all the typical big words that you hear when talking about different dimensions.
Yeah.
That you can look at yourself in this mirror and see different versions of yourself.
I didn't see that.
I don't think it was on The Onion. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've been fooled so many times where you think it's like
oh, cool. Yeah.
But you should look it up today.
Yeah, I will.
Because it would have been cool to hear your thoughts on that. But
with that, like, I'd love that you bring up the concept of a mirror. If you realize there's only two things in the world, there's you and there's the all. There's the separate self and the unified self. When I look out from my eyes, everything is a part of the unified self, and the thing that's doing the looking is the separate self. So when I look at you, I'm like, that's a mirror of the things that are internal to me. Like, you look out to the world, if I see a sunrise, you could see the same sunrise, but because of the experiences we've had in our life, we interpret that differently. So I think one of the good things about kind of, if you're interested in this kind of stuff and you want to explore it further just on your own, start looking at the world as a mirror. So what things trigger you? What things make you happy? What things, invoke emotional responses that might be unwarranted? And then you start to realize, maybe there's something I should explore there. And this is why relationships, like, I'm not a relationship coach or anything like that, but you can do this work in intimate relationships way more potently, because the people that you're surrounded with on a day-to-day basis are going to bring up all the things that you have tried to repress or don't like about yourself or they refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And when you're in the same environment and you have an open enough relationship where you can talk about it, like, hey, you did this thing and it kind of irritated me. Like, has anyone ever told you that was not cool? Then it just becomes like, and if you have two people who are both, like what we're talking about, conscious of this, it becomes like, it's like, the growth is like substantial because you just can't ignore it anymore. You're just mirroring back everything and you're like, okay, we're just going to climb this ladder together as rapidly as our nervous systems can allow.
Yeah. I think that's why children are your biggest teachers.
100%.
Because, they will find every triggers you didn't even know you had. But then you look back at yourself, and every parent goes to, bed at night going, oh man, I could have done. It's such a surprise every day what you're going to deal with.
Right.
And so often I find myself going, I could have done this better. Beat yourself up over a couple things, or I could have. There was a teachable moment there with my son, and I missed the opportunity, or whatever it is. But it's all stuff that, if you're annoyed when someone else is late all the time, it's probably because maybe you used to be late all the time, or you hate being late. So it's really just a reaction to something that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah, of course. And that's the mirror, right? And I think that's once you engage and go, okay, we're connected to everything, you can use your environment as the training ground.
By the way, I was late today. So go figure.
Then I was only shortly late. Not as late as you, but it's one of those things that it's
Parking
funny.
Was horrible, yeah.
Yeah, and it's raining, and you could have taken an Uber, but instead you decided to drive.
None of us got mad at each other, right?
No, but it's like,
I mean, maybe you were secretly mad at me.
I was like, he's 4 minutes late.
Asshole, I can't believe this guy's so unprofessional.
But it's one of those things where I think in general, once you begin to see, whether you want to call it a pattern, an awareness, the synchronicity is the easiest thing for me because it becomes just so obvious that you eventually have to tune into it.
Yeah.
That was my experience. It was like, if I continue to ignore this, like the world just might invert on me or something to like give me such a shake that like, are you paying attention to what's happening?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it starts with a whisper, then it's a little brush on the cheek, and if you don't wake up, you might get the 2x4 across the noggin, right? Like the world will work in this dynamic. It will do what's ever necessary to shake you into consciousness or awareness, and then it's the individual's job to take that integrate into what they understand and what they know, and then move forward with that. And this is the call to adventure. This is the hero's journey. People have heard these terms, but I just didn't, in my life, see enough of a coherent structure that I could follow, that I knew, okay, my intuition's increasing. My potency of being able to create from thought to reality is increasing. And so following this kind of blueprint training program, I just, even if I feel like I've fallen off the path, like, you know, this concept, oh, I fell off the bike or whatever. It's like, I come back, I go for a float again, I readjust things. Okay, yeah, right, I was doing that thing that I knew I shouldn't be doing, that I've been doing. I should cut that out. Yeah. And it just comes, and it will falter. Like people, you're going to go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 10 steps back, 2 steps forward, 30 steps forward. You know, it's like, it's not this linear thing. Mm-hmm. So I think when people have some sort of foundational blueprint to come back to, it gives them that support to go, okay, I'll just get back to the basics. Yeah. Let me get back to the basics.
Well, that's cool that you were so curious about your own existence, that you and documented your journey and then turned it into this. Like, that's pretty awesome for other people.
I just, for me, it was, I wanted to make it easier because I don't necessarily think everyone has to suffer in order to have this awareness. Like you said, it's like a lot of times people have to have their life fall apart and then they make the transition. That's 80%. 80% of people need like a negative life moment to put them kind of on the proper trajectory, to use words that don't really make sense, but like to get them, like, you know what I mean? It's like what's proper, but like to get them in a life where they are, you know, engaged with it and they're not like trying to leave it or by distract themselves from it.
Right.
And if we can move from it being 80% trauma to 80% inspiration, and people, you know, hear this conversation, or they meet you, or they meet me, or they meet people doing that in the world, and instead of them having to go through hell to make the transition, they're inspired and go, okay, I've been having these thoughts and feelings. Maybe I should kind of start doing this before the world, you know, the world will collapse upon you to give you whatever awakening you need to move forward in that direction. But if you already have that, you might not need to have the complete come apart. Yeah. It might be a little what's the word? You're driving just a little tweaking, right? A little tweaking. So.
Yeah. If you can avoid the full collapse, I'd recommend it.
Why not?
Why not? Right? It's funny that at some point we're all, and maybe call me crazy, at some point we're all going to wake up from this dream anyways. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the way I look at it.
And it's funny, like the idea of dreams and lucid dreaming, and it kind of, if you've had lucid dreams and you have the experience that, oh, I can exist consciously in another place. We all dream every night. If you don't remember your dreams, there's something going on that you could do some tweaks, and you could start remembering your dreams more. But a lucid dream is a dream where you're consciously aware that you're dreaming, to a point where you go, I'm running a marathon, but I go, no, I know Dillon is actually in bed sleeping, but I'm here running the marathon, and I look around and the world's solid. And so if you can have those experiences, it just proves to yourself that the world is weirder than it could ever possibly be.
Yeah.
And it seemed like in a lucid dream, you have a thought, and the thought forms a reality in the dream instantaneously. I think this world is more of like that same thing, but at like a denser field. So if you have a thought, you have to hold the potency of the thought longer and put more intention and effort and energy into it in order for it to form, but it will form. It might not happen instantly like you do in a dream. Oh, I want to be skydiving. You're skydiving, right? It's like we learn how to use the dream space to bring thought into form in a place that doesn't have consequences. So if I have a negative thought and it comes into form right away in the dream, like, oh, Jesus. If you had a negative thought in the real world and it came into form, like, it would be a disaster. Mm-hmm. So there's almost like a lag between dreaming and the lucid dreaming and the unconscious mind in that state and the real waking world. But they're very similar. But if you hold the thought, the frequency, you put emotion behind it, you put effort, you can design and bring in the thoughts in this world. You know, you've done that for yourself. I've done that for myself. Entrepreneurs do that in general when they build businesses. Artists do this when they think of a new poet or an art piece to create.
Yeah.
And just understanding that process.
My one and only time trying DMT, that was one of my big takeaways, was I witnessed manifestation. It was almost like a AR, like sacred geometry shapes were like hovering in front of me. and I would think a thought, and they would sort of like pop up and start building something. And the longer I would think about it, it would just grow and grow and grow. And I'd think about something else, and that would kind of disappear, and something new would start growing. And so I interpreted that as, okay, I'm witnessing like sacred geometry shapes of my thoughts manifesting into something. And we're doing that in this 3D reality all the time. And it's building when we think about something, but we have to hold the thought, like you just said, long enough. And I always use the word bleed, or, you got to pull it.
Yeah.
You got to hold the thought. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 10 years, but long enough where it suddenly just bleeds into this 3D reality. You don't see it yet. And some people give up, but maybe you're 80% there, but it's there in this other dimension, to sound totally nuts. But you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And this is actually where I think the template or the blueprint is the valuable part. Because if you're thinking, I have to hold all these thoughts in my mind and think about it, it's like, it becomes daunting. You just don't have enough mental capacity. They talk about billionaires, they just have the same clothes every single day. They don't waste energy on picking out outfits, right? So if you pre-plan what you're supposed to do in a day, you get up, you go, and you just do it. There's no friction about, should I do this? Should I not do this? Like, there's a wasted energy in that environment. So if I want to increase my synchronicity, I want to increase my connection with the world around me, I want to bring my thought into form in a way that feels aligned and authentic to me, and you kind of like break down those steps into the daily habits. Everyone talks about habits, right? It's like, what daily habits are you doing to get to where you want to go? But if you have those all aligned from micro to macro, it's an inevitable process that you will achieve that if you just do all those little things. Now, where individuals, myself included, everyone probably listening to this, gets caught up is we get distracted from those things. The phone, whatever, entertain, like there's so many things pulling you away from that journey that you almost have to like fortify yourself and know, okay, this is what I'm choosing to do. And the synchronicities and the intuition become more evidence for that journey as you kind of move through it. And then to kind of double click on the DMT side, psychedelics in general, DMT specifically, will strip memory from awareness. So you'll be able to like experience what you're experiencing without all the baggage and stuff coming in and clouding. That doesn't seem real, and this is kind of weird, and you can just experience things for what they are. People that experiment with mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT, you're going to see that the thoughts that you have will manifest instantly in your environment. When people say a bad trip, I've had a bad trip. It's like, well, what's a bad trip? It's something came up in their mind that then their entire reality started shifting, and it became like a negative experience for them. And they're like, oh, Jesus. And then it's like, normally there's bad trips for sure, but what have you learned from that bad trip in order to kind of like integrate that and move forward? Yeah. So when you talked about lucid dreaming, do you do that? I used to I wish I could tonight go, I'm going to go to bed and have a lucid dream that is as profound as I wish I was that masterful at it. I can get there enough if I do the proper sequences and stuff, but lucid dreaming is kind of where I realized, say 15 years ago, that I can exist in multiple places at the same time. And once you have an experience in a lucid dream, for an example, my favorite experience is flying, and you remember that, 2 days later that lucid dream is no longer a dream, it's a memory. Right? So we'll finish this conversation, we'll go on with our day, and 2 days later I'll be able to think back on this and be like, I was, in the booth with Kid Carson, we were having a conversation. That happened in the real world. I think the benefit of lucid dreaming is you can have experiences that are so potent that they become memories. So all of a sudden now you're able to curate environments where maybe you're winning the Stanley Cup, or you're on stage in front of 1 million people having a speech, or you're doing these things that you would normally have too much fear in the real world to do. You can consciously manifest them in the lucid dream, go through the experience, and 2 days later, when you think back on it, your mind can't tell the difference between whether that was a dream or that was reality.
Wow.
There's no separation there. So people can use lucid dreaming as a training ground for all sorts of things.
Wow. Yeah, flying is the best.
It's my number one thing.
Yeah.
Anytime I become conscious in a dream, I remember I can fly, and the freedom you feel of taking off from the ground like Superman, it just can't be beat.
Yeah. I don't think that I ever knew that I was dreaming.
Okay.
When I was flying.
Yeah.
I was just flying. And then I wake up and I'm like, holy shit, I was just flying. And I thought it was real.
Yes, there's a difference. It's one of the things with lucid dreaming. You can like have a lucid dream where you're like, oh, I'm dreaming. And then you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a lucid dream. Well, you can have one where you're like, oh man, I felt the table. It was hard. I felt the fireplace. There was heat radiating off it. Like, that must be a lucid dream. And then you can keep progressing up there, and you can have lucid dreams where you're like, this is indistinguishable from reality. Like, there's the only...
And you're aware.
And you're aware of it, because you know wild. That your body is sleeping in bed. And you're going, okay, so this is me, whether it's your projecting the dream, or whether your like soul is leaving your body and entering another place. Like, who knows? I don't really know the details.
Robert Monroe would say your soul is leaving your body.
Right.
Or your consciousness.
Going somewhere else. Your consciousness is going to another plane, and depending on the simulation theory and all the other ideas or concepts of what is happening, maybe that is what's happening. You fall asleep in this world, you wake up in another world.
Yeah.
Right? And there's this transition of your consciousness from...
Have you read his books?
I haven't, actually.
Robert Monroe. Oh, yeah. You've heard of the Monroe Institute.
Heard of the Monroe Institute, but...
Yeah. Yeah, it's I can't remember. He's got 3 of them out. Maybe it was the first one, but he was like a doctor in like the 50s when you would never talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so all his doctor friends, he went to them, and like psychologists and therapists, and said, dude, I'm like having these dreams where I leave my body and I'm flying around. Mm-hmm. And they said, he's like, test me because I think I'm crazy. And they said, no, you're totally fine. And his first aha moment was he wanted to see if it was real. So he flew, as he was flying, he was lucid, and he flew to like the woman who worked at his front office in the doctor's office. And he went down and looked through her like kitchen window and could see her wearing a very distinctive like red sweater or something like that. And so the next day at the office, he went and asked her if she was wearing a red sweater last night, and she freaks out, thinking that he's,
creeping on her,
peeping Tom or whatever, And that was the beginning of this whole thing where he went, wow, something's going on here. I'm traveling somewhere, seeing something that's happening in real life. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he writes all these books about it, waking up and being in another dimension, and the reality is kind of like ours, but the cars are different. Yeah. It just was fascinating.
And I think with that, one of the things is, again, like all of this, if you're just listening and you haven't had personal experiences with it, it sounds like
wild,
beyond crazy.
Yeah.
But what it's just like, oh yeah, you're gonna roll your eyes and you're gonna turn it off, which is fine. And that's been my experience too. Like in general, right? The moment that it becomes too weird, your separate self or your ego, Dillon, here on this side of the table goes, I just can't accept that right now.
Yeah.
And then inevitably 6 months later it will come back even more potent. And it's like, are you gonna believe it now? And you're like, and what happens is eventually you just go, okay, well, I can't be surprised anymore. So like, let's see how big of a dream I can dream and see if it happens. And at this point now, it's like, okay, well, I know all this is true, factual for me. I've had my personal experience to, if I need any evidence, I just look back on my own life and I go, well, there's all the evidence you need. Now, how do you want to construct the next 30 years?
Right.
And, starting small, the people are it's like, oh, okay, even tuning your awareness. Okay, like, what am I paying attention to? What, are you always on your phone doom scrolling? Like, these type of things are just kind of where you can start. Like, where does your awareness go when you don't have anything to do?
Yeah.
Right? Are you just pulled into the next distraction, or are you consciously creating something in your mind? Oh, maybe I could change that a little bit, or look around your house and I could put some more organization here. That bookshelf could be straightened up a bit, and that table over there hasn't been dusted at all. I should dust that. And you just start to put your awareness into your environment bit by bit. Don't overextend it. And you start to see, like, the cleaning the house thing is such a perfect example, because if you clean your house truly, and if you do it with intention with this idea in mind, you're essentially like dusting your mental attic. So you go.
So it feels good to clean, right?
It feels amazing to clean when you sit after in a clean environment, and you can actually finally be calm, and you go, oh wow, okay, like it took me an afternoon to clean everything, but I feel like more balanced now.
Yeah.
And like the external world is a reflection of your inner world, right? So if people have a chaotic external environment, normally they're going to have a chaotic internal environment. So it's hard to deal internally, like to sit there and meditate and try to but so you can do things in the external world which will help your inner world kind of find balance.
Right.
And then you just can kind of keep increasing the potency on that.
Yeah. No, I find that when I work from home.
Yeah.
I have to do a quick clean before I can really zone in. Or if I'm on my laptop trying to be creative, I'm still thinking about that. Oh, that laundry's not folded yet, and it drives me crazy.
It will always pull your consciousness into that thing, right? And which is why if you can get it done, do it.
Yeah.
It's not like, don't leave it for tomorrow, because you're going to have people thought, I forget what the scientist, but he said, anytime you have a thought or an idea, you create a little version of yourself and you send that version into reality. Okay, I should go to the store. So you create a version of you, you sent him to the store. Now the store's going to have a lineup and it's going to be busy traffic getting, okay, so the return on going to the store right now isn't good. So you created a simulation in your own mind, sent you out to the store, and it wasn't the result that you wanted. We do this constantly. We create little simulations and little visions of ourselves of what we want, and eventually you'll find something, you'll create a vision of yourself or a simulation, and you'll go, yeah, actually, I could see if it took me 20 years to do that thing, I would be happy doing that every single day. And that's where I find alignment and authenticity comes from.
That is such a cool way to put it. You send a little version of yourself. There's something about that visualization that helps.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're trying to think of what we want. Like, okay, I've had lots of people ask me, so what do you ultimately want? And that changes. It's changed over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's hard just to sit there and think of that. But I like the idea of sending a little version of yourself to try something on for size.
Yeah.
It's almost like, yeah, you're not committed to it. It's like it takes the pressure off of the magnitude of maybe trying to find your direction. Send little versions of yourself out there. See which one comes back and says, yeah, that was fun.
And this is where lucid dreaming, if you really get into it, can be a help, because you can actually do those experiences and be like, maybe that's not what I do. You win the Stanley Cup or something, and then you're like, that actually didn't seem like how I thought it would be. And then maybe you don't become the NHL player or something. Right? That's a kind of a random example. But anytime that you can... I guess in my own journey, anytime that I feel where I know that I'm alignment or authentic, is there's no separation between the thinking mind and what's happening. So for an example, if you're in a really good conversation with someone and there's like a flow happening and you're just back and forth, there's no like normally you're listening to the person, then you're responding naturally. There's no like thinking of what the next question is going to be or what you need to kind of do tomorrow at home, and you're fully present.
Yeah.
And you know this when you're fully present with someone, because the time kind of seems to dilate a little bit. Like if two people are in a discussion or they're hanging out together, time can go by very quickly. It can go by slowly. It seems to distort almost. And you're like, what even is time? Versus if you're with someone and you clearly know that they're thinking about something else and they're not present with you, there's just not the energetic potency there.
Yeah.
And we've all had conversations or felt we've been hanging out with people where it's like, man, that was just like, we were all there. That was a collective experience. Like that was a vibe. We were loving it. And we've all been in times where you're like, I can't wait to go to this dinner party.
Yeah.
Like people are on their phone, like whatever. Right. And so the more experiences you can have where you're no longer thinking, essentially, like you're in the moment, you're in the present moment. There's no like planning, and like, that for me has been like the signature to be like, hey, more of that.
Yeah.
More of that. More of that.
So I could ask you, how long does it feel like you've been sitting here?
I have no idea. Maybe 50 minutes?
Yeah, 15 minutes? Glad you didn't say 4 hours.
No.
4 exhausting hours, dude.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, Jesus, you're looking at the watch. You're like, I can't get out of here quick enough. I would hope that wouldn't be the case. But when I read your bio, your YouTube bio, everything you said, like, time traveling shaman, met God on a lucid dream, all these things. I knew instantly. I was like, oh yeah, we'll be able to riff for however long that he wants to riff, because these conversations are endless, and really it's more of like trying to put boundaries around what we're going to talk about to actually provide the listener with like usable, tangible evidence. Like, okay, I can take that, versus just like being creative and riffing. And eventually I think when you have enough creative flow, things will come through you and will come through me that like we weren't planning on necessarily talking about, and those will be the gems that people are like, oh, that's the thing that really resonates, because that hit me on a level where I was like, I was thinking that exact thing. Yeah. So try to get into that state. I gotta mention my one and only like real lucid dream. Okay. The kind of lucid where you look around your room and you think, I'm dreaming. Yeah. Like, and I know it. I'm in my washroom. It's in the morning. I'm getting dressed. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. That's over the sink. And it's as real as this. Like, I'm there. My hand's on the counter. I'm turning off the tap. And I'm looking at myself in the eyes in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I notice that I have a full head of hair. Wow. Like a full head of hair. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at myself and I realize, holy shit, my head is shaved. I'm dreaming. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, it was such a moment of astonishment
that I was having this lucid, that this was a dream, that I shook myself awake.
Yeah.
You know, I just was like, and I laid there going, that was messed up, like in the best way. Because I've always heard about lucid dreaming and it sounds so incredible. I hope someday I can get to the point where I can control it or stay in it long enough to make things happen, like you just described a few minutes ago.
It's funny. The very first lucid dream I had, which it was funny. I was in a house, and it ended up being an ex-girlfriend's house. And I was like, I know I probably shouldn't be in this house. And I had heard this thing. This is a little practical tip for people that want to get into lucid dreaming can do, is start just looking at your hands, like around the day, 5 or 6 times a day, or up to 10, whatever is comfortable. Look at your hands and just ask yourself, am I dreaming? Just that little prompt. Am I dreaming? And do it during your waking life. So, today, do that 4 or 5 times. Tomorrow, keep doing it. And what will happen is you'll train your mind to pause and stop, look at your hands and go, am I dreaming?
Huh.
And what it will do is, whether it's a week or 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, normally within a month, if you do that consistently enough, you will, in the dream, stop and have a moment where you go, am I dreaming? And when you do that in the dream, you'll look at your hands and you'll notice, like for me, it was my hands were kind of like morphing together a little bit. Like the fingers were attached, and I was like, oh, I'm definitely dreaming. And that was the first time that triggered me in the ex-girlfriend's house into it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how that can be my access point into lucid dreaming.
Wow.
Is doing a reality trigger that's small and inconsequential during the day. But if I get that trigger in dreaming, it will give me enough to wake me up in the dream. Then once you wake up in the dream, the challenge is to not get excited and like pull yourself out of it. Okay, stay calm. I'm in the dream. Look at your environment. And then you want to talk about balance. Can you balance being aware but not too excited? Because if you go too unconscious, you'll fall out of the lucid state and you'll just be in an unconscious dream. And if you get too excited, you'll wake yourself up.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like balance this, like I'm in the dream and I'm looking around and I'm observing. And like I said, for me, every time I have that, I go, I'm going to fly. And then essentially it's just like you can hold a bubble around yourself and you can take off from the ground like Superman. And it's the most liberating experience ever.
Amazing. Dude, I can't wait to see people around town just looking at their hands going, am I dreaming? Yeah, you might want to like say it quietly to yourself. You know.
Maybe don't be the crazy person that's like walking around, am I dreaming?
Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? Oh, no way. I wanted to ask you this thing before we go, because there's a lot of talk around AI and consciousness. And to the point where some people are using that as their guru.
Right.
They're having ChatGPT or whatever sort of guide them through all these spiritual experiences. I'm curious, as someone who's done all this work, what comes to you when you hear that?
I think tech is a fantastic tool. It can, expedite lots of different things. My personal caution to myself is never let it do the bait and switch that's the reality. That is the fundamental reality, the numbers and the zeros and ones, and that the real world, like Mother Nature, if you want to call it, the connection you have with the planet, is superseded by technology in any way. And I actually think why this stuff will become more and more important as AI becomes more and more powerful is we're going to be more immersed in our tech devices than ever before. And people know they get dis-ease if they're on their phone and stuff too much, right? Like it's like, go walk outside, get grounded, go for a walk in the park without your phone or without your laptop. Like you'll feel better. And I think as tech becomes more integrated in our lives, the pull back to something more ancient and foundational will be ever present. My personal philosophy is when the singularity happens on AI, the singularity for the soul will happen to the exact right before. And so people, like everyone knows there's going to be some sort of AI singularity where technology races and it gets to a point where it's just like doubling every millisecond, right? Because everything happens in the energetic or the thought realm before it happens in the physical, I think right before that happens, people are going to have like a mass awakening. So all the stuff we've been talking about is going to just start coming through whether people like it or not. And it's going to become self-evident that they're a part of a bigger whole. And then it's going to be a call back to initiations and ancient rituals and ancient culture and just the stuff that they would have cared about, connecting with the community, laughter, joy, bliss, all the like human meaning, purpose, all these things that people crave in real life, but they don't seem to get necessarily through tech. There's going to be like a reoccurrence or a resurgence of that.
Interesting. Or has that already happened?
Might already have happened, and now we're learning or remembering back about how to make a better decision the next time. That would be an argument for some people. Is like, we already made this call and then chose to integrate with tech to a point where you become like a cyborg and then lose your humanity. And then there was like a deep reset, and the divine, or whatever you want to call it, is giving humanity another opportunity to remember itself before that happens again. Like, there's lots of different rabbit holes we can
Interesting.
go down. But
Yeah, I would say that it does. I know you can't get obsessed with it, but it does drive me crazy just to not know.
I think the not knowing is, again, there's a difference between belief and knowing. When you know something, there's no need for belief because you know. And the stuff that we talk about, kind of to wrap it up and put a cap on it, the blueprint, the program, it will get you to knowing. Like it will, like you won't be able to describe it or articulate it or bring it into someone so anyone else can explain it, or that you can explain it to anyone else. But you'll know, and then as long as you know, and it's like the arrogance of being like, I know the universe. That's not what I'm talking about. But you'll know that you are a part of something, and that you have the ability to create your own reality, however you see fit. Now, are you going to be able to understand the mysteries of the cosmos to a point where you could deliver it to someone in a succinct poem? Maybe not. Maybe that is your mission. Maybe you'll write the world's greatest poem and you deliver that and people read it and they're instantly are initiated into a higher consciousness.
Right.
That could be someone's role. Maybe someone creates a dance floor where people dance themselves into heaven and they realize, oh, wow, this is all happening for me. We all have different creations that we're bringing forward.
Sounds like you're working on both those things right now.
I'm trying my best to bring it all together.
You just gave your two different businesses. Yeah. It's been awesome, dude.
Love it, man. I'm glad we met. Synchronicity brought us together with the time in Banff, and that's why I thought it would be a good conversation to have, and I look forward to more of them.
And where do people find you?
I'll give you the Instagram and stuff, but we're just kind of getting started on that, but that'll be the best way to reach out, and we'll go from there.
Brother, thank you so much, man.
Nice to meet you,
That was a lot of fun, dude.
Thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.